Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. You should be. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic and that you're all having a wonderful day. Ledger currently has gift cards. That's right. If you're looking for the perfect gift for that special someone in your life, or just someone who actually needs more crypto, there is a link in the description below. While I do not work for Ledger, I am an affiliate, and therefore the affiliate link, go get a gift card. It literally makes a great gift, unironically. The last couple of days, I'm sure you've noticed a gigantic swing, movement, change in energy and movement mindset within the market. It's really interesting. There were even a lot of, we're at 2, the numbers 2, analysts out there who actually apologized if you didn't get to see it. That was what? Did you see that transaction? It was for 104 Bitcoin. Jeez Louise. There were 2 analysts, very popular analysts, who just a couple of weeks ago were relatively bearish on the market. And they said that Bitcoin was could be going back down to 30,000 and that there might not have been a bull run. Of course, they were the literal 2 people out of 100 who said it, but they did have quite large voices in the space. Since around, it was about 4 or 5 days now, the cryptocurrency market has had a really wide-ranging shift in mindset as well. If you were here over the course, this has been less than a month. It's been a very odd shift, kind of, in mindset, mentality, and discussion about what Bitcoin is for, who Bitcoin is for, and what Bitcoin's going to do. Do you remember when we had a couple of news stories back to back about these analysts and these CEOs and these hedge fund managers discussing that Bitcoin was going to take over gold? Gold was going to be sold off and Bitcoin was going to take over. Bitcoin's going to be the new, and it kept on happening. And I was like, okay, we've had that narrative before, but a couple of them kept on jumping in and discussing the US debt levels and how much money's being printed and how it was going to have a really huge, wide ranging effect on markets, on equities, on the stock market, on people who have assets, as we've gone over before, and more specifically on Bitcoin. Basically, all these people discussing out in the open, if you remember the other videos, that the US dollar is done. I try my best to make sure that the titles of the videos at some point encompass what we go over in the actual videos. But there was a thing where we've been going over multiple times. The US dollar is done. The US dollar is cooked. And those were actually in all the videos with CEOs and with Larry Fink and the people from JP Morgan being like, no, the US dollar doesn't have much longer, as the devaluation of it is accelerating, and that this is going to benefit Bitcoin. You'll see the same exact energy as we're moving forward. People are now logically looking towards the summer. We had about 3-4 weeks ago, a lot of analysts who were we're going to go over 95,000. We're going to go over 100,000. And they all stated that once we went over, I think around 106,000, we would enter price discovery mode. There's a bit of discrepancy when it comes to a lot of their numbers and where they exactly think that we're going to land. But the general consensus is that hello, we're here. This is going to completely, for lack of a better word, thrust us into this mega bull run that is going to potentially finish sometime around winter, give or take. This was, of course, very, 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 very popular news. Bitcoin is charging toward a potential $150,000 by August as explosive chart formation signal unstoppable momentum and historic upside. Peter Brandt's chart currently shows a $150,000 Bitcoin. This would be, you'll see, sometime in July, meaning that by the time we get to August, we've already achieved that number. If you remember a lot of the numbers we were getting before, this is why I referenced a month ago, a lot of the other analysts were saying something similar, but Peter Brandt tends to be more conservative in his numbers. He tends to not as hypey, but his numbers seem to be like a smidge lower than everyone else's. Other analysts called by the time it ranges between 3 different points. By the time we get to July, they're expecting a $180,000, a $200,000, or a $250,000 Bitcoin. And that's when we were discussing about a month ago, where I was saying it's really interesting that they're all getting to this like $200,000 Bitcoin in summertime. This would then logically throw us into the category of a, of a potential, no one knows, a potential $500,000 Bitcoin at the end of the year. If this is your first bull run, there's usually like one gigantic run up in price as we're nearing Christmas or once again around winter. But everyone has this kind of number as of right now. Veteran trader Peter Brandt offered a technical perspective on Bitcoin's recent price surge that happened on the 21st of May, following the cryptocurrency's breakout to a new all-time high. Using a detailed chart analysis, Brandt shared his interpretation of the bullish momentum on Twitter, highlighting that the new peak, while noteworthy, is not necessarily a decisive technical event on its own. Instead, he emphasized the presence of established bullish continuation patterns that support the ongoing trend. He basically said, well, yeah, usually if you have a bull run, this is what tends to happen. Prices tend to go up. That's kind of the long and short of it. We are at this point, as far as we've been told, in price discovery mode. That basically means prices will go up until they kind of find a barrier. We may consolidate a little bit more for a couple of days or a week until the chart and the traders decide where things are going to go, and then we will decisively move in that direction. But once again, he is currently the least number as far as everything that's been going on. You've already seen the other ones that we've been going over. There are a lot. Not a few. There are a lot of articles discussing what's happening with the US dollar. The bills that have been trying to pass through Congress and the Senate in the United States, whether it be the stablecoin bills that they've been trying to get passed, but also basically another money printing bill, has been wreaking havoc on the US dollar. We've also been going over the last 2 months, a lot of news about de-dollarization. If you happened to miss that, countries around the world since February, we can tell this by the charts and by the movement of money in and out of different assets. Countries around the world around February, since the beginning of the tariffs or the announcements of them, have begun to de-dollarize. They're selling off their dollar holdings. They're selling off any kind of U.S. stock and real estate and a bunch of other things. And it's also the other movements that we've been seeing have also been causing in the background a huge amount of money printing. So the current idea right now is that this is going to continue. This is basically going to cause the U.S. deficit to continue to move up, U.S. debt to continue to skyrocket. This is also a part of the lowering of the AAA grade from Moody's and also 2 other institutions as well against the United States for the first time in, I believe, just around 100 years. The expectation is that this is not going to stop, that the US dollar is going to continue to be printed into infinity, the US dollar's value is going to continue to drop. And because of the inflation, assets are going to do extremely well. Not until basically the US's markets kind of shrivel up in a way. On top of that are still continued expectations that soon, and I mean like soon, that the Fed is basically going to be forced to announce that they're cutting rates and that they're going to really ramp up QE, quantitative easing, basically printing money, like huge amounts of money. They're not going to have a choice. The problem there, my friends, is that the lowering of the interest rates is going to cause inflation to go higher. It's going to cause the US dollar to become more devalued. And by relative default, this goes back to what we were talking about the last few weeks. Everyone is like, basically this debacle is going to cause Bitcoin to continue to move up higher and higher. Yes, the current, it says, nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that Trump's current bill will be adding $3.8 trillion to the US's $36 trillion in debt over the course of the next decade, taking it to $40 trillion from this bill alone. That's no other printing. That's no other money making. That's no other movement down in interest rates. Just this bill alone. Last week, Charlie Garcia, the founder of wealth network R360, wrote in a piece for MarketWatch that recent well-telegraphed Fed Treasury purchases of around 45 billion US dollars amounted to what they're calling stealth easing. Basically, it's happening, but not like the big shebang. He said if the Fed quietly keeps hitting the quantitative easing button, Bitcoin might become the investment equivalent of a midnight... This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Equivalent of a midnight convenience store burrito. It'll be volatile, but satisfying. I don't know how people think these things up. Adding that others, such as pro-Bitcoin financial analyst Lynn Alden, have played down the significance of the Fed's bond purchases. Garcia's comments were seized on by the bullish Bitcoin and crypto crowd who believe it's the beginning of the big print, that they expect to send Bitcoin far, far higher in price. This is the narrative we've been talking about for a while now. And I mean, and I'll give it to you this way, it's the truth. So there's a couple of things. You can announce that A and B is going to happen and that we might see the letter C, boom, boom, ch. But the other part of it is that we know that money printing causes Bitcoin and other assets to go up. This is why we've been going over for the last couple of months. He who holds the assets will be the benefactor in the future. It's actually quite terrifying how little people actually have assets. I mean, across the board. I'll give you this one as well. And I don't understand why, and I think I don't particularly want to understand why. A couple of days ago, when Bitcoin was at, I think, 105,000, somewhere around there, and then we moved up like the first time to 111,000, I saw so many people on Twitter either making posts about not having Bitcoin, or people doing some kind of like jealousy thing where they were like, well, my Tron is going to do better. Well, my Solana is going to outperform Bitcoin. And it was this kind of like, remember when I've asked, I think 3 times over the course of this channel, like, do you own Bitcoin? Don't tell people how much you own. It's a simple yes or no. And I found that it was like 30, 40, 50% of people, despite the news that we are getting every single day, despite seeing Bitcoin go from 16,000 to 100,000, over 110,000 plus, still don't own Bitcoin. When I chat with my friends, I have very real conversations with them. I'm not trying to baby my friends, and I tell them, you know, at some point Bitcoin is going over $1 million. It's not a matter of like if it's possible, it is going to happen. It's just a matter of we just do not know exactly when. So I make sure to kind of make sure everyone is on the same mental playing field, that we're not just kind of, throwing around ideas. No, this is actual logic and this is actual fact, that just because of the scarcity and the halving alone, it's going to go over 1 million. The fact that we have all this money rushing into the market and the inflows into the ETFs are also at brand new all-time highs, it's going to accelerate the timeline. Understand that. And for the one side of people, there were so many people, and it was really weird because a lot of these you can see how many like people viewed a certain post or how many people were liking it. There was one that had like I think 13,000 like likes, like hearts on Twitter. And I was scrolling through the comments and people were like, yeah, I would have loved to have gotten some Bitcoin, but I bought some gold instead a couple of months ago, or I got this instead, or I bought this meme coin and then the meme coin's price went down. And this, not investment advice. It's just more of a, that from 1 million, Bitcoin has to 10x. Like you're still going to be making money. There were also somebody else wrote something. It said, okay, cool. Bitcoin's at 111,000. So if I put 1,000 into it and it goes to 222,000, I've only made 1,000. And it is that ridiculous, interesting mindset that will keep people behind, because it's always just short term with a large number of investors. You're looking for a coin that will do a 1388x in price so that you can brag that you made a lot of money, but you can't find those because those coins are literal garbage and many of them are just pump and dumps. The idea is that I got into Bitcoin too late. I don't want to get in at 100,000. And what I've been telling you before is that when Bitcoin does go to $1 million per coin, it doesn't matter if you only made a 10x, you are holding a portion of the rarest asset on the planet. The problem then is Bitcoin goes to $10 million and these people realize that 1,000 would have become 10,000, would have become 100,000. And they sit there and they go, well, Bitcoin's at 10 million. I'm not going to buy into it because if Bitcoin goes to 20 million, I've only doubled my 1,000. And this is it. This is the kind of thinking that actually keeps investors behind. People get into markets just looking for quick and fast money and quick ways to be able to brag to other people how much money they made in a short period of time. You have to think long term. It is the only thing that is going to make you successful as an investor. When you hear about all these people in the cryptocurrency space, all these CEOs and stuff like that who are buying up all these companies. And I told you that before when we first heard that BlackRock was getting into the market at the end of 2023. I said, BlackRock's not getting into Bitcoin because they're going to, I guess after 13 months, I guess we can see where the market is. No, they're in it for the next 50, 60, 70 years. They know what returns it's going to give them. I'm sorry for, sorry for getting lightly off track, but it's just one of those, the dollar's done for. This isn't a joke. This isn't like a test. This isn't like us buddying around. The world reserve currency is collapsing, and we've heard from multiple billionaires who run trillion-dollar companies in this space who are like, yeah, we're moving all of our money into Bitcoin. We now have 11 or 12 companies, if you missed that as well, who've all announced this year they want an additional 400,000 Bitcoin, 400,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Bitcoin, additional 15,000 Bitcoin. We get all this, if you missed the news a day or two ago. The amount of Ether on crypto exchanges is at its lowest level in a decade. It was previously in 9 years. It's now in a decade. The amount of Bitcoin on crypto exchanges has also fallen down dramatically in the same exact time frame. And these people are buying up all the coins. Why do you think they own everything? Is because they see the long-term vision for it. You're thinking about only doubling your money, and it's like, nobody in the year 2040, 2045, 2050. That little investment that you put inside of it is going to be worth $980,000, $1.2 million. But you're looking at the right now and thinking, well, yes, this is going to continue going on. There is going to be no end to the actual devaluation of the dollar, the euro, and the yen, just from a normal standpoint. But as we've been hearing since around February, once again, There are a lot of people who think that the Fed is like kind of having their hand forced, and they're going to announce something very soon, potentially sometime over the course of June. Also, side note, shout out to all the people who were correct. Remember, we kept on hearing April, May, and June. High five, buddy, because you were all completely correct. That's the US dollar ain't looking so hot news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in the news, where are the words? There we go. An energy storage company by the name, I assume this is Color. It is KULR, Coulor Technology Group, has purchased an additional $9 million worth of Bitcoin for its corporate treasury. The company announced on Tuesday, part of a recent surge of companies that have been building treasuries of the digital asset. I think we had the word Color in January or something like that. It sounds familiar because I remember there was like a string of companies. So once again, there are companies who are creating like strategic like treasuries, and then there are those who are simply like buying it for their company, like as a rich company. A lot of them have assets in gold and silver and land and real estate and equities, you name it. That's like the treasury of these companies. Like, should something happen to the company, we're sitting on US dollars, we're sitting on this, we're sitting on 35 different assets as a way to be like, hey, at least we have this to be able to help us. The other thing that we've been seeing has been like the actual reserves. Those are the Capital 21s, the MicroStrategy, the MetaPlanet, the blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying all 12 companies' names, but you understand. Those are the ones who are specifically buying to never sell Bitcoin ever. They are greedy greeds, and they want as much Bitcoin as they possibly can with no intention of ever relinquishing it. And I mean, once again, if you know that your investment is going to 3, 4, 5, 10x, why the fudge would you get rid of it? So Color is back in the news. They purchased another $9 million worth of Bitcoin. It doesn't say exactly how much or what the number is. Fantastic. They now have $78 million worth of Bitcoin. What's this guy's name? Michael Saylor recently has apparently been discussing with a number of companies, and I don't know in what capacity or what way, but we saw that he was talking to them on Twitter, and apparently he's going to a lot of conferences as well. Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, oh gosh, I want to say Pompliano, and there was also one other person. Apparently they're traveling the world now, talking to different companies who are interested in this, and this is why I think we keep getting this like nonstop news. It is now daily at this point of companies buying up Bitcoin, wanting more Bitcoin, adopting Bitcoin, and having some kind of a treasury and or a fund and or a reserve. Cool. That's the Coulor news. And yeah, let's move on. Also, there's no photo here. Also, in completely unsurprising news, a bank by the name of SG Forge. That sounds like a Pokemon gym leader. SG Forge. The cryptocurrency subsidiary of France's third largest bank, Société Générale, is preparing to launch a US dollar-backed stablecoin for institutional clients on the Ethereum network. A, this news is popular because it's France's third largest bank. B, this news is popular because they're going to be doing it on the Ethereum network. There have been a number of other banks who have begun to try to launch their own central bank digital currencies, usually on a closed blockchain, as it were, and or they've created them before kind of for their local currency. So I do believe that there are a number of, Euro stable coins that have begun to launch, I believe, on Stellar, on Ether, on, I want to say Tron. Tron is also, I have my own theories, but Tron is kind of, I think, one of the most minted places for Tether currently, as opposed to it was previously before the Ethereum network. But I think there's some money sliding across tables there, but we won't get into that. So what we're now seeing is that apparently, and this will shift, but apparently now there's a very strong demand for U.S. stablecoins. I'm pretty sure you've seen the U.S. stablecoin bill news, and this is so-and-so. Every country's kind of ramping up now. We heard last year they're all ramping up to release their central bank digital currencies / stablecoins over the course of this year. So I guess this is a extra part of that news. And keep in mind, once again, I just saw another article and my eyes rolled heavily that said something about like being anti CBDC, central bank digital currencies, but stable coins are the answer. They're the same. They're the same thing, and it's weird that people have been like brainwashed to think otherwise. They're made by a company, a corporation. The stable coins are always centralized, and they will track your transactions, which was all the fear that people have from central bank digital currencies. The news here, once again, being that a large bank is launching a US dollar stablecoin on Ethereum. The move would make it the first US dollar stablecoin issued by a major bank on a public blockchain. JP Morgan Chase released their JP Morgan coin, I believe, on a forked version of Ethereum to do internal testing. According to the news from the French media, The Big Whale, wow. Based on sources close to the matter, SG Forge plans to expand the stablecoin in question to other networks such as Solana after the initial launch on the Ethereum network. Currently, no major global bank has issued a U.S. stablecoin on a public blockchain. JP Morgan Chase's JP Morgan coin runs solely on the bank's private permissioned blockchain network and is available only to JP Morgan clients. JP Morgan tried years ago to get other banks to use it. And the other banks were like, okay, cool. And they tried making their own coin, and they were all in discussions with each other to use their own coin. So, of course, it didn't really work out. But, yeah. A lot of stablecoin news for some, and I mean, maybe I just don't know the intricacies of it. But a large number of analysts and people within crypto and the believe that all these stablecoin launches, all these stablecoin bills, all these stablecoin creations are going to like dramatically increase liquidity for our market by the trillions. Like not hundreds of billions, literally trillions of dollars will be able to flow easier in and out of our market. And this is also part of the narrative of this year of a $500,000 Bitcoin. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you are. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, they have a Pudgy Penguins ledger as well. Oh, that's kind of cool. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.